Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome back to the Gold Money Asian Rapid Tournament in 2021. We're now in the super final. We're now in the match game between the two top grandmasters, Vladislav Artemiev and Levon Aronian. So these two guys really deserve their place in the finals. It is a little bit of a surprise, I think, but still when we watch now the whole tournament, when we watch also the preliminaries and also the semi-final stage, it's now a deserved final, and these two guys are battling it out because they are really great attackers, great tacticians. So it was really a pleasure to watch them also now in the super finals. Yesterday's finals didn't start good here for Vladislav Artemiev. Vladislav Artemiev lost the day one. Now it was simply time maybe to make something happen in the day two, but again it didn't start good for Vladislav. Vladislav lost the first game with the white pieces, so it meant now if Levon Aronian wins now the next game with the white pieces, then it's simply game over. Levon Aronian is the winner of this prestigious tournament. So let's check out now what happened. In my opinion, this game that I'll show you now is really the best game so far in the whole tournament. It's really a beautiful tactical game with tactics all over the board, and the tactics are really not so easy to see. They're not this kind of linear tactics. I like to separate tactics like linear tactics and tactics all over the board. The linear tactics maybe are something like we are playing with the knight, then we play a sacrifice with the knight, and then again we're playing sort of a tactic that simply goes on. But this tactics that are really all over the board, it's really hard to see sometimes. Maybe sort of a diagonal that's connected to a file or a rank or something, then the pieces are maybe aiming on one particular square, and then we have a new tactic that can stretch again from this point on. So it's really hard to see sometimes this where the diagonal will be connected to a file or rank. So that's why this game is really beautiful. It's really sort of a tactical game that has tactics all over the board with some beautiful elements like decoys, deflections, double attacks, pawn breakthroughs, and all of the beautiful elements that we love to see in a chess game. So let's check out now what happened. Be prepared. This is almost like a top engine game in my opinion. So here d4, here played by Levon Aronian. We have g6, we have e4. So far the modern defense, you see Vladislav Artemiev is choosing now an opening. Maybe it's not the best of openings now when you play a classical time format game or something, but he wants now to surprise Levon Aronian. He wants maybe get out of some opening preps and surprise, win the game maybe with the black pieces, and then reach maybe the additional games, or maybe even then in the continuation also the Armageddon game. So here after move e4, we have bishop to g7, we have a knight to f3. So far the modern defense, as we said, we have d6, and now we have the so-called Geller system with the move c3. This is a pragmatic idea because we're not weakening the pawn structure so much, I think, with the move c3. What the main idea about this Geller system is that even if you try here bishop to g4, so you see h3 is now a possibility, because after bishop to f3, here of course bishop to f3, queen to f3 will happen, and still you have a great protection of your d4 pawn because you don't have to mess up your pawn structure with gg takes f3. If you wouldn't have played of course the move c3, then the queen will be always stuck a little bit to the defense of the d4 pawn. So far this Geller system is a great pragmatic idea to prevent these bidding ideas by black. So here after move c3, we have knight to f6 by Artemiev, we have bishop to d3 by Aronian, castling, and also here castling by Levon Aronian. So we have now c5, challenging now the center immediately because this pawn structure cannot be tolerated here for black. Black has to now crack the position in the center with the move c5. What we can notice now again that the d4 pawn is challenged, so that's why here a great prophylactic move now by Levon Aronian. Now move like bishop to g4 and then knight to c6 would be very dangerous. Then white could be challenged here in the center around the square d4. So far Levon Aronian keeps a calm game. Here h3 prophylactic idea, preventing idea, never allow this spinning idea for Vladislav Artemiev. Queen to c7 here by Artemiev. What we can notice now, okay, this queen to c7 is a preparation to further challenge the center with the move e5, but the queen is not again on the same file where already white's queen is. So whenever your opponent's queen is moving somewhere, then of course the queen can be attacked by some rook activity. So it means now what white needs to do is of course get the rook on the c file, because if something gets clarified in the center, if the c file for instance get open, then the queen on c7 could be really endangered by the rook on c1. So here rook to e1 so far by Aronian. We have now e5, this idea by Artemiev. He's now challenging really the center further, and now bishop to e3. Now you see it's also great that you have here the move h3 already, because knight to g4 is not an opportunity to kick away further the bishop here from the centralized square. So in the continuation we have b6. So Artemiev is now also trying bishop to b7, maybe further attacking pardon me, bishop to b7, further attacking also the e4 pawn. So here in the continuation, knight from b2 d2. So see, Levon Aronian here still has a great compact position in the center of the board. The e4 now is protected. Knight to c6 was played here by Artemiev. Even if you try here c takes d4, as I said, c takes d4, you can maybe try e takes d4, not a problem. Here knight to d4, but again, I hope you realized with rook to c1, then knight to b5, knight to c4, the queen gets really in danger. So it's already sort of a strategically lost game, I think, here for black. What also black has here, of course, has this weakness. It's this isolated pawn on d6. White pawn maybe on e4 could be attacked further, but it's not an isolated pawn. Of course, it can be also further protected with move f3. So in my opinion, strategically, black would be simply here lost. So here after move knight from b to d2, as we said, knight to c6, finally again challenging the d4 pawn. But now rook to c1, as we said, even if you clear here the position with the move c takes d4, c takes d4, you can never take out here because you're tactically lost here on the c file. So that's why after move rook to c1, we have rook to e8 by Artemiev. Again, he's trying to further also attack the e4 pawn. Now he's basically attacking the centralized structure that Levon Aronian has built here in the center of the board. After move rook to e8, now it's almost like Levon Aronian said, okay, you had your fun now attacking my center, now I'm going simply to close the center. You have played now many moves just in order to attack my pawn structure. Now I'm blocking the pawn structure out, no more attacking possibilities now in the center. I have now the space advantage. I have also all of my pieces out, which is, I think, that we should also recognize here in the position. Maybe these are so far not the best squares for the pieces, but they are at least somehow developed. They are centralized, and then of course can be also improved in the continuation of the game. Now even opportunities are to play knight to c4, maybe also to attack further the d6 pawn, but that's actually not the main idea of here Levon Aronian's attack. With the move d5, what he's trying to do, he's getting something out of the c file. The c file was, I think, the main issue. The rook to c1 was, I think, a great idea here by Levon Aronian. So after move d5, we have now sort of a King's Indian classical structure with this pawn structure, with this block pawn structure in the center, d6 e5, also e4 d5. What we can notice now that black will try probably his normal King's Indian attack now with knight to d7 and the move f5. This is the main goal of any King's Indian, I think, or modern defense like this. We want to break the position with the move f5 because the pawn structure here d6 e5 is already showing us the direction, so it's always in this block pawn structure like this. So here after move knight to e7, we have now this move b4 by Aronian. He's now challenging, of course, here black on the queen side. We have knight to d7 here. Artemiev is preparing, of course, to move f5. We have knight to f1, and now we have c4 because of course with the move knight from knight to d2, knight to f1, now white doesn't have anymore the protection of the c4 square, so now c4 is a possibility. Bishop to c2 here played by Aronian, and now comes this move f5, and we have now reached really the critical moment of the game. Here Levon Aronian takes f5. What should you do? Because if you don't react, then you get f4, then the bishop gets kicked away. Then of course with hxg5, I think black will create this simple kingside pawn storm that black always has in King's Indian modern defense defense structures. With the pawn structure on the king side gets simply paralyzed with the move f4, I think black could have a great attack, then further attack maybe even with the, as I said, hxg5, maybe even g4, kicking away the knight. So it would be, I think, something that would bother white in the continuation of the game. So you see the bishop would be then blocked out if f4 happens. So that's why Levon Aronian takes with e takes f5. And now it's a question for you: should we take here with the pawn? Maybe you can pause the video and try now to see the best next move for black. It is a much better position here for white already because of the piece activity that we have talked about already. But after remove e takes f5, here maybe it's time for you to pause the video and make a decision. Should we take it out with the knight, or should we take out now with the pawn? Okay, here in the continuation of the game, Vladislav Artemiev took with the pawn, and it almost seems like a normal idea because we want to have a pawn connection here, then we want to push the pawns further, but actually it's a huge blunder. A better idea is simply to take with the knight to f5, keeping at least the pawn structure here compact in the center of the board. Now if bishop to f5 happened, of course g takes f5, now these pawns are rolling again, and I think black is even slightly better here. So but after move knight to f5, okay, white could maybe continue with the move bishop to g5, but now after move a5, okay, white doesn't have to react here. White can play a3 or something, protecting the b4, or maybe even a4 is here a possibility. But what we can notice now that white has also several problems now. After move bishop to b7, and I think knight to f6, maybe the d5 pawn could be a long-term weakness. So in my opinion, then black should probably attack further also the bishop. If bishop to e4 happens, then I think white could face also several problems, although white is still slightly better here. But as I said, this would be now the best continuation here for Artemiev. But unfortunately, here he took with the move g takes f5, and now the fun starts. Here Levon Aronian plays now like Stockfish, like the Stockfish engine. Be prepared, this is really sick, brutal attacking game now by the Armenian grandmaster. Bishop to g5, we have now e4, and here Levon Aronian doesn't react. That's actually the beauty of the attacker. The beauty of the attack is when you get attacked, that sometimes it's not really the best of moves to simply retreat. You should always, but always consider the possibility of the counterattack. That's actually how you should think in chess. When you get attacked, many of defensive players, many of, I think even, I would say even bad players are the first idea of theirs is simply how to retreat, but not Levon Aronian. Levon Aronian is an attacker. He's now searching for counterattack possibilities. He's playing now knight to g3, because if you take now, also your knight is hanging on e7. But again, here Artemiev accepts the fun, accepts the challenge with the move e takes f3. But again, Levon Aronian doesn't want to take out the knight. He's simply attacking this position further, because he has now such a beautiful activity with these two bishops, with the knight on g3, with the rook activity on the e file. You see how important it is to get a rook connection in a chess game, because if you don't have a rook connection, then one of these rooks could be loose. So that's why here Aronian plays now the move knight to f5, is spinning the knight further. Here Artemiev is trying now to lock the e file, because he realized his tactical problems here on the e file. Of course, if he would have taken knight to f5, then the rook would be hanging on e8. But now again, a great move by Aronian. Knight takes g7, we have king to g7, and again a sick, brutal move here by Aronian. Rook takes e5. Brilliant move. Let's see now possible continuations. Let's see now what black has also as an option. Here it wasn't played in the game, but if you try bishop to f5 to undermine a little bit of pressure, then you get simply bishop to f5. And if you try knight to f5, then we can simply take rook takes f5, and it's I think simply game over with up the whole piece. Of course, after rook to f8, we have even this kind of an opportunity. Bishop to h6 leads even into checkmate, because if you take king to h6, then queen to d2, king to g7, queen to d4, we're simply delivering more checks. King to f7, here rook to e1, great idea, and then with queen to f4, here black is simply getting checkmated. So even if you try to escape here immediately with king to g8, it's not a possibility. Again, checkmate, rook to g5, here king to f7, here queen to f3, again rook to g7, wherever you go, it's simply a checkmate. So really brilliant stuff. So as said, even if you try somehow to get your rook connection, it's not a possibility. So here in the continuation, after the move rook to e5, Artemiev takes d takes e5. But again, here beautiful move here by Aronian with the move d6. And that's actually the great example what I meant in the beginning, when the file gets connected to the diagonal. It's really not one of these tactics that you can see immediately, but with the move d6, not that you have only created this fork against the queen and the knight, you have also liberated this diagonal here for the queen. So here after move d6, of course the queen gets challenged, you have to move the queen, but here Levon Aronian doesn't want to even take out the knight. Look how beautiful this attack is. Now even the rook is hanging, and let's see now what happens. This wasn't played in the game, but if you try to retreat with the rook with the b8, then you get simply queen to f6, and you get checkmated, because if you get to your king here to g8, then a brilliant tactic would happen. And I think that Levon Aronian saw this tactic for sure. I'm sure that he saw this tactical possibilities. Bishop to h7, here king to h7, queen to f7, and now with bishop to f6, it would be a brilliant checkmate. So here Artemiev, as I said, doesn't have time to retreat here with the rook, or to play something like bishop to b7, because he's going to get checkmated. So that's why here after move queen to f3, knight to g6, here played by Artemiev. But now Levon Aronian simply takes. The material is equal, but still this is such a better position here for white, because of the dark square problems that you have here, because of the possibility to simply also cement your pawn. This pawn is very annoying. So as I said, after move knight to g6, here in the continuation we have queen to a8, bishop to b7. Here Artemiev is trying to counterattack the queen. Queen takes a7, and now queen to c6 with a brilliant idea. We have to also admit a little bit that Artemiev plays also great counterattack here. Queen to c6 with a direct threat to play here a checkmate on g6. g2, but also he's threatening to play rook to a8, trapping the queen. Now again, here Levon Aronian plays a great move f3, but now after rook to a8, again a great brilliant counter attack with move d7. So you don't have time here to take out the queen. If you take the queen, of course we're getting the promotion, new promotion on dx. So you see the tactics are all over the board. That's, I think, what I hope you realize what I meant with this idea. These are not linear tactics, they're really tactics stretched all over the board. So here after move d7, Artemiev takes now queen to d7, but now the queen gets deflected from the square b6, and now Levon Aronian can get back with the queen into the game. And when we watch now the beautiful bishop pair, this is a tactically lost game here for black. So after move queen to b6, rook to a6, queen to e3, okay, we have now a great advantage. Now it's time to regroup, now it's time to slow down the pace and get maybe even into an endgame. We don't have to play such tactics anymore. We have now really to go really to reach only the endgame. So after rook to a2, rook to d1, again a brilliant counter attack here by Aronian. We have queen to e6, queen to c5, rook to c2. Even if you try knight to f8, maybe to get maybe your knight somehow more into defense, it's not so good because you risk simply a rook to d6, and then you have to play queen to f7 and get rook to f6 here. Even if you try one check, king to h2, another problem, and I think you have to even to take queen to f6, but after bishop to f6 we can even take out the knight and it's simply game over. So really beautiful attack by Aronian. After queen to c5, here the rook takes c2, played by Artemiev. He accepts the challenge, takes out the bishop, and now queen to c7. Now you have to play king to g8, and now Aronian takes also here the bishop. But as we said, here because of this dark square problem, now this is a beautiful bishop. The bishop will come on h6 or on f6, and we're also threatening some checkmates here. So that's why knight to f8, here Artemiev is trying to cover his 8th rank. But now after rook to d8, we have rook to c3. Even if you try something like queen to f7, even if you try maybe to simplify the game by trading off the queens, it's not so good because you get simply queen to e4. It comes with a counter attack. Even if you try rook to c1, it's not possible because you lose the bishop. Rook to a2, if you try maybe to get your rook back into the game, then it's not so good. Bishop to h6 is simply winning. You cannot protect anymore your knight on f8. So as I said, after move rook to d8, here rook takes c3 was played, and here after bishop to e7, rook to c1 and king to h2. In this position Artemiev resigned. He has no defensive resources anymore. This knight will be taken and it's game over. So beautiful chess game. It's almost like I watched maybe a Stockfish 13 or Stockfish 14 chess game. It's really a brilliant attack by Levon Aronian. In my opinion, it was really one of the best games, and it's really cool that it was basically the last game of the tournament, because now with this game, of course, Levon Aronian is the winner of this prestigious tournament, and congratulations. I'm really glad that also Levon Aronian won the tournament. Of course, it wouldn't be a bad thing if Artemiev would have won it also, but in my opinion, as I said, it was simply his day and he's now the deserved winner. And I think Artemiev can also be very satisfied with his performance in the tournament. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. If you want to see more games from this tournament, check out my commented chess games so far. Here are some links of some great games that we have analyzed before. And if you want to see maybe the best chess games of all times, check out my best chess games of all time series. This game will be also added onto our best chess games of all time series for sure, because it's a brilliant attack by Aronian. And if you maybe want to see the best engines playing in their best chess games, check out my commented chess games play by computer series. Here's also the link. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.